What's up guys, producer TCustomz with TCustomz.com. Today I want to talk about a sampling tip, and that is incorporating multiple samples into a single beat. And some of you all may already do this. You know, this may be common practice for you to dig for a sample and find certain sounds and then, you know, expand upon that and look into other samples. If you find a really dope sample, you know, a lot of times you can pull from one particular sample, and the benefit to doing that is that everything's already in key with itself and you don't have to worry about tweaking pitches and trying to get everything to align melodically and that sort of thing. But you may not always have that option. You may just find a few really nice pieces that you want to use in a sample, and then you may need more to incorporate into the beat to make it into a full song. You know, whether that's pulling from virtual instruments or finding other sounds to use. Well, one of the reasons I love to sample is the authentic sound you can get from digging in samples, and you don't always find that in, you know, virtual instruments, which nowadays in 2013, you know, they're getting pretty realistic, and you can find some really good string VSTs, and you can find some really realistic sounds. But that's one of the real benefits, and for me, one of the reasons that I like to sample is, you know, it's for that real live instrumentation and real authentic sound. So usually when I'm digging, whether I'm digging in my vinyl collection or my digital collection, I don't, for the most part, revisit samples. I try to go through an album thoroughly the first time around and find any potential samples that I could use for a beat, and either set the sample aside, chop it up then if I'm trying to make a beat right then. And then another thing that I do, if I just find maybe in a particular song, I just find a couple elements that I would think I could use. Maybe I find a horn stab, I find, you know, a transition sound or something like that that I think would be cool, but I don't really see that sample forming a whole beat for me. What I'll do is I'll just cut those parts out, store it in a folder, and just have like a miscellaneous sample folder that I can go to when I'm creating a beat in the future. So say a week down the road, I've got a sample that, you know, I formed the structure, the main sequence for the beat, so I've got the full like meat and potatoes of the beat with this one sample. But then I want to go back to this other sample folder that I created and just kind of listen to these other sounds and see if I can fit something in. Maybe since they're totally different, more than likely the key is going to be different, so I might have to, you know, pitch the samples to fit whatever melody and whatever key the beat that I'm making is in. And the biggest thing for me, having those extra samples kind of on standby, just there, versus say forming a beat, and then if I wanted to incorporate more samples, having to keep digging and going through more records. And for me, that sidetracks me, because I find the way that I work is if I can get the majority of the beat done in a short amount of time, my beats usually turn out better for the most part. I mean, obviously take time with the mixing and that sort of thing at a later time, but if I can get the majority of the beat out in a short period of time, my beats turn out better. And I think that's because you don't have the ear fatigue. Over time, if you work on a beat for too long, it just starts to become, you start to anticipate what's going on versus like listening to it with fresh ears. And so having this folder set aside with these extra samples in it, it expedites my beat making process. But I don't always have something in mind specifically to go in the beat, so having those sounds just kind of gives me something extra to add in addition to, you know, whatever virtual instruments, any other instrumentation I'm going to add to it. So what I just have a series of folders that I created called various sampled sounds. That's where I cut out those sample chops, and I've got sound effects, you know, strings, just whatever. Some of the stuff's labeled, some of it's not. So it really just gives me an extra selections of sounds to go to before or after going to a virtual instrument, something to fill in. I mean, depending on the kind of samples that you use, you may not need additional instrumentation. But I think this technique is a technique that I overlooked for a while, and I know that it's helped me out because it's some of the sounds that I've cut from records. It's not really something that I could recreate or even find in a virtual instrument. So having those real authentic live instrumentation and having some weird sounds and stuff that you can sprinkle in some extra effects to your beat, I mean, I think it just kind of classes your beat up a little bit. So anyway, hopefully I'll offer some insight. For more sampling tips, producer tutorials, and beat making videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And also, TCustomz Drum Sample Pack Volume 4 is almost complete. It drops this Friday the 19th, so keep a lookout for that. Until next time, happy beat making. Peace.